Okay, so in this lecture, let us study the response of LTI systems to complex exponentials. Okay, so if you recall that earlier we discussed the input-output relationship of a linear, time invariant and continuous time system. Okay, with an input x of t and the output is y of t. Okay, so if we have a linear continuous time system with lumped constant and real parameters, it can be symbolically represented as a box like this: linear continuous time invariant system. Lumped constant means like the resistance, capacitance and inductor, these all are called lumped parameters. I'm sorry, this is not, this is L. Okay, lumped parameters, and these parameters are constant. L is constant, C is constant, so it is called a lumped constant. And real parameters, why is it real? Because resistance value is real and C is real. Because C equal to, let's say, 0.1 microfarad, then this 0.1 is a real number. When I say L equal to 10 microhenry, then this 10 is a real number. Therefore, this you can also say linear continuous time system with lumped constant parameters. Real parameter, like that you can write, because it is constant and its value is real, and these are called lumped because the resistance is lumped in one place, it is not distributed across the length. So you will be studying this lumped parameters and distributed parameters. Maybe in your electromagnetic waves, when you talk about waveguides and transmission lines and all, there you will be studying about lumped resistor, lumped components and distributed components. So right now no need to worry. So whatever you have in the laboratory, this all are RLC and all lumped components. But if you take a transmission line, let's say this is your mobile phone tower, and here you have the transmitter, and the transmitter is connected to the antenna via a cable. Okay, cable or that thing is called waveguides. And here also this waveguides or cable has the resistance, capacitance and inductance, but this resistance is distributed across the length. Let's say the length is some 10 meters. Okay, so from this point to this point the resistance is distributed like this, and this wire also has capacitance and that also distributed, and this has some inductance that also distributed. So those components are called distributed components. Anyway, that is out of scope of our subject. Let us not get into in detail about this, at least at this point in this course. Okay, so now we also observed that the characteristic signal for such a continuous time system is the exponential function e to the st. What is s? S is a complex number. Complex number of the form sigma plus j omega. Indeed, if you have a input which is of the form like f times e to the st. Previously we said a times st, but let us assume the input is f times e to the st. And if we give to the system LTI CT system, then we say the output is going to be h of s times f times e to the st. That means the input and output essentially have the same time function. Look at here, this is e to the st and the output also same time function. and this is not a time function. Not a time function. Why? It is a function of s. Okay, that is a function of s, function of the parameter s. Therefore, on the input side, this is a complex number, by the way. F is a complex number, it has magnitude and phase. Therefore, the only thing that is time function from the input side is this guy e to the st, and in the output also the same time function I am getting. Any signal which gives rise to that property, whatever you give input, the same thing appears in the output. Such a signal is called a characteristic signal. That is what we discussed in the last class. Characteristic signal. It is also called eigen signal. Okay. Now, in general, as I said, f is a complex number, and then s also a complex number. So, I am sorry, s also a complex number. So, if s is complex, in general it will be, as I said, sigma plus j omega. Therefore, if you have a signal like e to the st, then you substitute particular value of time, let us say time t is equal to 1 second or something else, value of time, then the value of the signal turns out to be in general complex. See, originally I have f times e to the st, and f is a complex number, you substitute the value, and s is a complex number, and you substitute the value for t equal to 1 or something else, then you will get some value. Originally it is a function. For this function, it is a function of time t. Now you substitute some value for t is equal to something t1, then you will get some value, and that value is again complex. Okay, the value of the signal turns out to be in general a complex. Therefore, f times e to the st becomes h of s times, I think I did a mistake here, yes, it is correct, h of s times f times e to the st. So, this is the input output relation of a linear time invariant system. Okay. So, it is the only tool that we used for the analysis of system. In practice, a complex signal like e to the st cannot be generated in the lab. As I said in one of the previous lectures, this is used only for mathematical simplifications. Okay, this signal you cannot generate in the lab. Okay, in the laboratory you cannot generate because it is a complex function. For a complex function, how will you generate? By a real device. See, your oscillator is a real device, right? It always gives a real output. Okay, the real output you can see on your eyes, sinusoidal signal, let us say sine waves. But this is a complex quantity. The complex quantity you cannot generate in the lab. However, as I said, the sinusoidal function of time like sine omega t, which plays such a vital role in AC circuit analysis, is a very close relative of exponential signals. Like e to the st, if you substitute s is equal to purely j omega, then it becomes e to the j omega, then real part of e to the j omega is equal to cos omega t. Therefore, they are related to each other. It is a close relative of e to the cos omega t. Therefore, we would want to see how to relate this exponentials e to the j omega t or e to the st with the sinusoidal signals, sine omega t or something else. Okay. And if the sinusoidal signal is the input, how we can obtain the output in terms of this h of s? See, if you have e to the st, f times e to the st, then the output is h of s times f times e to the st. Now, the question what we are trying to understand is Like suppose instead of f times e to the st, let me have cos omega t. Now what is the output? Or if I supply sin omega t, at last we are going to give the input as real signals. So this is what we would like to apply to the system, right? So our we don't want to apply this, but still we are using. Why? What is the reason? Only for ease of manipulation. It's easy to manipulate, that's it. That is the only reason we are using these exponentials. Otherwise we will never touch exponential signal. So as long as you are working theoretically and mathematically, the exponential signal is very, very comfortable for you. The moment you use some other signal like cos omega t, sin omega t, tan omega t, then it will eat your head up. So exponential signals are very, very easy to work on it in the theoretical purpose. But the moment you enter into practical thing, you want to do some experiment or build some devices, then exponential signal will never come into play. Okay, don't ever think about exponential in practice, because we cannot generate. Then if you are not able to generate, then what is the use? Why are you talking about that? Okay, because only it's simplicity to work in the mathematically. So you do all the analysis mathematically, take your pen and paper or pencil and paper, do the analysis and get the output. Then once you get the output, take the real part of that. Then you will get cos omega in terms of cos omega t, or take imaginary part of that, you will get sin omega t, and then whatever you get the solution, that solution you will try to implement in the physical devices like resistors, capacitors, inductors, then diodes, transistors, or whatever it is. Okay, now our question is, if I apply cos omega t, what would be the output? If I apply sin omega t, then what would be the output? So let us see how it goes. Okay, now the next thing is, as I said, f times e to the st, it becomes h of s f times e to the st. Now what I am going to say is, instead of s is equal to sigma plus j omega, let me substitute s equal to j omega, and I will make the sigma to 0 for the time being. Okay, then therefore f times e to the j omega t, then it becomes h of j omega, not h of s. Now it is going to be h of j omega f times e to the j omega t. As I said, s is a complex number, right? S is a complex number. Now here I am considering purely imaginary. Purely imaginary number. Now we said in general f also complex. That's what we said, f also a complex number. Now whenever you have a complex number, that complex number can be represented in many ways, like 2-3 ways. One is x plus iy form, or mod of r times angle of theta form, where r is equal to square root of x square plus y square, then theta is equal to tan inverse of b by a form, or modulus form. There are many ways you can represent. So since f is a complex, let us represent, this is called, by the way, polar form. Okay, let us represent f in the polar form, like f is equal to a times e to the j theta, where a is the mod of f and theta is the angle of f, where f is a complex number. Therefore that f is replaced by its magnitude a and its phase angle e to the j theta times the input is a to the j omega t. Then again your h of j omega times, previously I had f times e to the j omega, therefore in the output also I have f times e to the j omega. Now I have the whole lot of these things, so the same thing will appear in the output also. So a times e to the j theta e to the j omega t. Okay. So what is h of j omega here? H of j omega be a complex quantity in general. Okay, it is a complex quantity in general. If whenever it is a complex quantity, again it has magnitude. We always talk in terms of magnitude and phase, as long as the number is a complex number. Magnitude and its phase. And let's say the phase angle is alpha it has. Let's assume the phase angle of h of j omega is equal to alpha, and the magnitude is, let's say, mod of h of j omega. Therefore, this thing I can write as mod of h of j omega magnitude, that is mod e to the j times alpha, and rest of the quantity e times a times e to the j theta e to the j omega t. So this is the output, where the input is a times e to the j theta times a to the j omega t. Okay, now again simplify this guy. So how do you simplify? Mod of h of j omega, then you can combine the similar terms. Okay, so a times e to the j of theta plus alpha, where theta is the phase angle of your input quantity f, and this alpha is the phase angle of your system frequency response h of j omega, times e to the j omega t. Okay, let me call this is equation number 1, and here the input is a times e to the j theta e to the j omega t. Let's say arrow mark like that. Now instead of that, let me take the complex conjugate of this guy. As I said, the complex exponential will not come alone, it always comes with its complex conjugate. Okay, so it always occurs in pair. Okay, it always occurs in pair. Suppose if you solve a quadratic equation, ax square plus bx plus c, okay, then this a is a real number, b is a real number, c is a real number, all are real numbers. Then what is the solution of this? X is equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So sometimes the solution will be like a plus or minus ib like this. If you get a solution like a plus ib like this, then it is wrong. Okay, it always comes with a plus ib and a minus ib. It occurs always in a pair. Sometimes if you get your solution is a minus ib, then also it is wrong. It never occurs a single complex number. It occurs as a pair. So similarly, when you consider these guys, then this will not occur alone. This will not occur alone. So see, this is a real signal, real equation, because the coefficients are real. The moment you try to find the solution, you may get a complex numbers like this, complex numbers. Similarly, if you have a real signal cos omega t or sin omega t, then it has real part e to the j omega t. I'm sorry, wait a minute, cos omega t. Then this cos omega t is equal to e to the j omega t plus its conjugate e to the minus j omega t. So these two guys will come together. They will not come alone. Okay, so when you have e to the j omega t, then you must have e to the minus j omega t. So that is why our next job is take the complex conjugate of that. Okay, complex conjugate. So if you take complex conjugate, then a star, a is a magnitude, okay, then again a becomes a only, a star becomes a, then e to the j theta you take conjugate, then e to the j omega t, that also you take conjugate. Then what will happen, since a is a real number, because it is a magnitude of f, okay, recall we said a is the magnitude of, look at here, it's a magnitude, okay, a is a real number, therefore a conjugate becomes a alone. Now e to the j theta becomes e to the minus j theta times e to the minus j omega t. Now you apply this to a system, okay, therefore a times e to the minus j theta e to the minus j omega t, and you give it to the system, LTI system. The output is going to be again h of, see here the j is minus j omega t. What is the frequency here? Minus frequency. In fact, you can write e to the minus j theta times e to the j minus omega, or let it be as it is, no problem. Okay, now here you have minus j omega. Here in this case plus j omega, that is why in the function also you have j omega, that is the connectivity. Okay, similarly here also, since you have minus j omega, then you put minus j omega here. So there is a connection between this guy and that guy, same minus j omega, and the rest of the things are same. So whatever you apply the input, the same thing you appear in the output also. A times e to the minus j theta e to the minus j omega t. So let me call this is equation number 2. Okay, again this h of j omega is a complex number, right? So when it is complex, then it has magnitude. The magnitude is h of minus j omega magnitude, and the phase angle will be, now it is not plus alpha, it is minus j alpha, because h of, it is an odd function, phase function is an odd function. Phase angle of h of j omega is equal to alpha, then phase angle of minus j omega is equal to minus alpha. You can put, say suppose you have a number a plus ib, what is the phase? Theta is equal to tan inverse of b by a. If you take a minus b, what is the phase angle? Theta, let us say this is theta 1, and theta 2 is equal to tan inverse of minus b by a, because you have minus there. Then tan inverse of minus theta is equal to minus of tan inverse theta, it is, okay, you can write like this. And what is this? This is theta 1, therefore theta 2 is equal to minus theta 1, that is why this minus alpha comes here. Therefore equation 2 becomes magnitude of h of minus j omega times a times, no, e to the minus j alpha, a times e to the minus j theta times e to the minus j omega t. Okay, so instead of plus j omega, we have minus j omega here, and instead of plus j theta, we have minus j theta. Instead of plus j alpha, we have minus j alpha. Okay, so again let me simplify this. H of minus j omega e to the minus j times alpha plus theta, or theta plus alpha, whatever it is, a times e to the minus j omega t. Let me call this as equation number 3. Okay, now if the system parameters are real, then h of s turns out to be real, and it turns out to be a ratio of two polynomials. Recall from the previous couple of lectures, this h of s is going to be If you recall, a n times s to the power n plus a n minus 1 s to the power n minus 1 plus dot 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 plus a naught divided by, is it correct? Am I writing correctly? Let me cross check. It is, no, the numerator it is bn. I am sorry, I am writing wrongly. That's what I got a little doubt. This is bn minus 1, this is b naught. Then the denominator am, sorry, this is bm s m, this is, let me write clearly, bm s to the m bm minus 1 s to the m minus 1 dot 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 b naught an s to the n minus 1 plus an minus 1 s to the n minus 1, this is s to the n only, plus dot, then a naught. So you have a numerator polynomial divided by denominator polynomial. So if the system parameters are real, then h of s turns out to be, for a lumped parameter system, the ratio of two polynomials with the real coefficients. The coefficients are real. Okay, this bm is real, b naught is real, an is real, an minus 1 is real, and a naught is real. Okay, so if that is so, then a property of such a rational function with a real coefficient is the h of minus j omega turns out to be conjugate of h of j omega. That is h of s is equal to, or h of minus s is equal to h of s conjugate of h of s. You can prove that actually. Okay, suppose let us say h of s equal to 2 plus s divided by 1 plus s like this, then what is h of minus s? H of minus s equal to 2 minus s divided by 1 minus s. Now what is h conjugate of s? H conjugate of s is 2 plus s divided by 1 plus s whole conjugate. Then this is equal to 2 plus, because s is a complex number, let us say s equal to sigma plus j omega divided by 1 plus sigma plus j omega conjugate, then here also conjugate. So for the timing, let us assume sigma equal to 0. Therefore this is 2 minus j omega conjugate, then 1 plus 1 minus j omega. And what is this? This is the h of minus j omega, or you can say h of minus s, where sigma equal to j omega. Therefore whenever the coefficients are real, see here the coefficients are real, 2 is real and 1 is real. In that case we can write h of j omega minus j omega is equal to h of j omega, and you take conjugate of that. Therefore these two are equal, but the angle remains the same, magnitude of the angle, but the angle remains same. Okay, either you take in this one or that one, not an issue. You find the angle of h of s, you will get alpha. Again you h of s, I am sorry, one second. You find the angle of h of minus s, it gives minus alpha phase angle. Then you find h of s conjugate of this, again you will get minus alpha. You can prove that. It's very simple. You see, take some simple number and you can prove that. Simple complex number and you can prove that. Therefore the final point is minus h of j omega is equal to mod of h of j omega times e to the minus j alpha. Okay, for real parameter system. What do you mean by real parameter system? Suppose you take a circuit as an example. What we are saying, this is C and this is L and this is R. This all are real parameters. Okay, so this R, L and C have real values. Okay, so the input is A times e to the minus j theta times e to the times minus j omega t. Then the response is h of minus j omega magnitude times A times e to the minus j times theta plus alpha that we already derived of times e to the minus j omega t. Now this one you can use it now here. So that is equal to or let me write one more step. E to the minus one more step I let me know so that you don't get any confusion. So the output is h of minus j omega times A times e to the minus j theta e to the times minus j omega t. This is complex. You can write a magnitude of h of j omega time its phase angle e to the j alpha minus j alpha, because there is a minus sign here. Then A times e to the minus j theta e to the minus j omega t. Now you can replace this guy with this one. Okay, therefore it becomes h of minus j omega becomes h of plus j omega, okay, plus e to the minus j alpha A times e to the minus j theta e to the minus j omega t. Let us say equation 4. Okay, now let me imagine that we have a composite system which is the sum of these two. One is A times e to the j theta e to the j omega t, and his friend is A times e to the minus j theta e to the minus j omega t, and this gives rise to one output and this gives rise to another output. What is output for this guy? H of j omega magnitude e to the A times e to the j times theta plus alpha e to the j omega t, right? And this guy gives h of again magnitude j omega, then A times e to the minus of theta plus alpha e to the minus j omega t. Now add these two responses, that is we are applying the superposition principle. Then A times e to the j theta e to the j omega t plus A times e to the minus j theta e to the minus j omega t, and this gives rise to add these two outputs in the output side also. So h of j omega A times e to the j of theta plus alpha e to the j omega t plus h of j omega, then A times e to the minus j theta plus alpha e to the minus j omega t. The left hand side you can take A commonly outside, and inside you have e to the j of omega t plus theta plus e to the minus j of omega t plus theta, okay. And the right hand side you have h of j omega, take magnitude, and A is constant, you can pull out, multiplied by e to the j times omega t plus theta plus alpha plus e to the minus j omega t plus theta plus alpha, like this, okay. Now what is this? This is the 2 times of cos theta. So 2 times a times cos of omega t plus theta. This gives rise to magnitude of h of j omega plus you put 2 here, a times cos of omega t plus theta plus alpha. So this is the sinusoidal input function. Sinusoidal function of time given as an input. Okay, and in the output also same sinusoidal but some phase shift. See, in the input side I have this cos omega t plus theta. Here also I have the same frequency cos omega t plus theta, but in addition to that you have some extra phase. That phase comes due to the system. Extra phase delay or advance, whatever it is. Now the input frequency doesn't change. Okay, doesn't change. If the input frequency changes, then you don't like the system at all. Suppose let's take a system. You give frequency omega 1 to the system, and if it gives to some other frequency omega 2, then you don't like it. Of course, we need this kind of system in some other applications, but not for amplification purpose. If you give donkey voice, donkey sound, then you may get some buffalo sound if the frequency changes like that. That means the signal will not be reproduced faithfully. Okay, there will be some distortions and cross modulation. There are many things, okay, that we will discuss at a later point of the time or maybe in the higher semester. So the same frequency should appear. The only thing allowed is the amplitude can change. The amplitude can be changed, no problem. You can change the amplitude. Even the phase shift also allowed, but the frequency should not be changed. See, in the input I have 2a, my amplitude is 2a. Okay, but in the output my amplitude is 2 times h of j omega times mod of h of j omega times a. This color is very dark. Let me choose some other light color. Maybe this one. Yeah, this light. Okay, originally my input is 2 times a times cos omega t. Okay, this is my amplitude originally. Now my amplitude is scaled up or scaled down depending on the magnitude of h of j omega, this guy. And phase also little changed here. Phase also little changed. Not a problem, but there should not be any change in the frequency. So that is a very important point. That's why it is called eigenfunctions. So we have a sinusoidal function of time with the amplitude 2a at the input. The output is also a sinusoidal function, but the output is modified in magnitude alone by the factor of mod of h of j omega. So h of j omega, as we call system function, if you recall, sometimes called eigenvalue. So this is also called eigenvalue for the eigenfunction e to the j omega t. E to the j omega t is eigenfunction, and this is eigenvalue for particular omega, and alpha is the angle of h of j omega. Okay, so 3 points we need to note down here. The first point is frequency is not changed, same frequency is maintained. Input frequency is equal to the output frequency. And the second point is amplitude is changed by mod of h of j omega. If this mod of h of j omega is greater than 1, then you say that is amplification. And then phase is changed. Okay, phase is also modified. Phase is also modified by how much? By an angle alpha. This alpha is nothing but delay. See, if you give a signal to the system, it will not give the output instantaneously. It takes some amount of time for processing, maybe in terms of microseconds or nanoseconds, and that delay is captured by this alpha. So, any physical system, any practical system always has this delay. It is not an issue. Of course, everybody needs certain amount of time to respond or to work or whatever it is, right. So, it needs some time. So, it is not an issue. So, this alpha is acceptable, and this is what we want, but this frequency, if you change the frequency, that is not acceptable. Frequency should not be changed. Okay. Now, let me talk about little bit phasors. Normally, when we deal with sinusoidal functions, either sin omega t or cos omega t, both are called sinusoidal functions. Don't say cosinusoidal. Generally, the general name for this guy is sinusoidal function. Sinusoidal function, when I say, it includes both sin omega t and cos omega t. Some people will think sine is a sinusoidal function and cosine is cosinusoidal function. No, not like that. So, when we deal with sinusoidal functions of time in AC circuit analysis, so probably you will be studying this in networks and systems. We use phasors, okay. So, in AC circuit analysis, we use phasors. We don't bother about frequency, okay. We will suppress frequency, and we always talk about phasors. Let us see how these are related with phasors, like input and output, or how they are related. How they means how input and output are related in phasors. Because in the phasor notation, we will not consider the frequency, that is angular frequency omega naught. Why? Suppose you take our power system. Okay. So, for example, especially in Tamil Nadu, you have we have power generation at Mettur, hydraulic power generation, and in Neyveli, the place is called Neyveli. There we have thermal power station, and in Tirunelveli we have atomic power station, and in Kalpakam, there also we have atomic power station, and Ennur we have another thermal power station, and so on. Hydraulic power stations, thermal power stations, atomic power stations, then wind power stations. This all sources produces 50 Hertz frequency. Everybody is exactly producing 50 Hertz sinusoidal frequency. Okay. So, everywhere the frequency is same. So, in such a case, we know implicitly in default we know what is the frequency. Then why should we talk about every time frequency? So, we will suppress the frequency content. Okay. So, in that case, we will not carry the frequency all the way everywhere. So, we said 2 times A times cosine of omega t plus theta becomes mod of h of j omega times, let me put 2 here, A times cos of omega t plus theta plus alpha. This is what we derived. So, let us write down the phasor for this. Phasors. As we recall, the phasor for this will be written as follows. We will consider only the phase, okay. We will not consider the frequency. Therefore, A times e to the j theta has A, magnitude A at an angle theta, okay. Therefore, instead of writing the frequency, we will simply write A times e to the j theta. We are omitting the frequency, omitting omega, because omega is constant everywhere, that is why. Like if we have many power stations, everybody is coming to the common grid, right. So therefore the frequency is same, so no need to carry out the phase. Now no need to look at the frequency, but only we should be very much careful with the phase. Okay, so if you give to this guy to the system a times e to the j theta, I am not considering e to the j omega t. This is irrelevant now for phasor notation. So that's why we will consider only e to the j theta. So if you apply, then the output is going to be h of j omega times a times e to the j theta. Now this guy has magnitude h of j omega, then e to the j times its phase angle alpha. Okay, then a times e to the j theta. Okay, therefore this is like h of j omega e to the j times theta plus alpha. One second, here the magnitude will not come, I am sorry. This is a complex number, and that complex number we can write in terms of magnitude and its phase. And let's say this is equation, let's say this is equation A, and no, this is A, and let's say this equation B. So equation B is a very convenient form of equation A. Now what do we do have? What do we do? The significance that if we have a phasor here e to the j theta, as sorry here in the input, as we have here like e to the j theta as an input, the output phasor is obtained by multiplying e to the j theta by h of j omega. So this is the principle that we can use in the AC circuit analysis. So you simply multiply the output system function by its phasor, this a to the times e to the j theta. Now this h of j omega, now this h of j omega, in what is the meaning, or what is h of j omega in AC circuit analysis? It is the, as I said, ratio of two polynomials. Generally it is a ratio of numerator polynomial and the denominator polynomial, but in AC circuit analysis this h of j omega is equal to numerator phasors and the denominator phasors. Okay. Therefore, the ratio of the phasors of the response quantity divided by phasors of the excitation quantity. So the numerator we have response, the denominator we have excitation. Excitation means what? Input. Okay. Now when I say response, this response can be voltage or current, and when I say excitation, the excitation can be voltage or current. Suppose if the response is voltage and the excitation is current, then this is the impedance function. In case if the response is current and the input is voltage, then this is what? Current by voltage is admittance. So admittance function. Therefore, in AC circuit analysis, h of j omega is generally either impedance or admittance. Okay. So in general, h of j omega could be an impedance, it can be an admittance. So it is the ratio of phasors. So we are accustomed to doing this circuit analysis using phasor concepts. Okay. So I hope you might have accustomed to this one. but the relation of the phasor with this system function here is quite eliminating, like a times e to the j theta becomes h of j omega times e to the a times e to the j theta. So what we are really doing is, we have a sinusoidal function of the form a times cosine of omega t plus theta. We would somehow like to relate the characteristic signal of the linear system. By the way, this is not a characteristic signal. Please remember, characteristic signal of a linear time invariant system. Remember that. But e to the j omega t, yes, it is a characteristic signal. So instead of using this actual signal a times cos omega t plus theta, we will assume that we use e to the j omega t, and then we would like to find the response. Okay, then you find the response and afterwards take the real part of that, then you will get the answer. For example, you have a voltage source like this, then resistor, a capacitor, then this is your V naught, and this is Vi. The phasors are denoted by like this, Vi bar and V naught bar. Okay, so your V naught bar and Vi bar, if you solve it, then it becomes 1 by j omega c divided by r plus 1 over j omega c. Then it is going to be 1 plus j omega c r, and this is your h of j omega for a given system, RC system. So once you have identified the output and input, then ratio of output to input is our system function. So the system function is the ratio of the output to the input. So this is the output and this is the input. So analysis of the systems of the type that is described here under sinusoidal excitations becomes almost a kind of mechanical procedure. Step by step you need to do it. It's a kind of algebraic procedure, okay, instead of having to deal with the differential equations. Of course, differential equations are little complicated. The fact that a system with arbitrary complexity involving a differential equation of higher order can be analyzed in a purely algebraic fashion here by using these phasors constitutes the central advantage of phasor concept and the simplicity of the AC circuit analysis. So I don't want to say much about AC circuit analysis, probably you will be studying this in another course. Okay, now we understand here, of course, then we will talk about the output in all this entire discussion here. I mean, suppose you have an input, okay, when you talk about, see this is my input, and when you talk about the output is a system function h of s times the input, right, and so on and so forth. Normally the output is particular integration. So this is going to be what? Your particular integration of the differential equation. So in the case of AC signals or sinusoidal signals, that is the common systems, the complementary solution gives rise to decaying transients. Decaying transients. Therefore, the particular integral solution is what remains forever. Okay, it is the steady state solution. So the complementary solution is a transient process. Okay, that is a decaying transients, complementary function. And this particular integral is steady state response. It exists. Steady state response. The result therefore is that whenever or whatever we are having here is not only the particular solution, but also it has complementary solution. Okay, so the complete solution has summation of complementary solution or complementary function plus particular integral. This complementary solution corresponds to transient part. It dies out over a period of time. It will be die. It will not be there. And this one is steady state. So you can find out the parameters of the input quantity and the output quantity using your instruments, maybe an oscilloscope, maybe a voltmeter or whatever you are having. Okay, measure the output phase and output magnitude in relation to the input and measure the system function h of j omega. So experimentally you can find out what is h of j omega for different values of omega. In fact, you will be having the lab course also regarding this. So this is a very convenient for experimentation. H of j omega very conveniently obtained practically. Okay, very easily can obtained. Not only sinusoidal functions. No, this is very convenient for experimentation purposes. Not only sinusoidal functions, but also for something which is generated in the lab, like you can find out the input output relationship. Okay, so the relationship between input and output can be quite conveniently measured. Okay, but that is not possible with exponential signals. Why? Exponential signals you cannot generate in the lab, because when I say exponential signal e to the st, then s is a complex number. If you have complex quantity, then complex function, then how do you generate in the lab? It is impossible, because no physical signal will have that, no physical device will generate that. Okay, but even if s is real, then let us say we said f times e to the st, then even if the f is real, let us say, then this s also real, then also you cannot generate. Why? You cannot generate. Okay, because the signal will increases like this, exponentially increasing, therefore you cannot generate. Even if the signal is decaying like this, then also you cannot generate, because it is decaying and finally it goes to 0, so then it is useless. Okay, generally this decaying exponential signal will be generated and used in photographic recording process. Suppose you click your camera, then the flash comes and again it goes slowly. So there we will use this exponential signal, decaying exponential. Exponential signal is given to flashlight in the camera to capture some photos, camera. So initially the signal is little high amplitude and slowly it comes, so flash, fast decaying signals. So you will not be able to take measurement under steady state conditions for decaying exponentials. So this is difficult. So the abstract of all this is that the characterization of a system in terms of h of j omega turns out to be very convenient and very fruitful one. It is very easy to measure and everything. The input output relationship of a system, if we express in terms of h of j omega, which is called frequency response of the system, then it is very easy to find out the h of j omega. So h of j omega is the frequency response. So this h of j omega is, as I said, very convenient one, and we would like to make use of this facility to the extent that is possible. Now, as I said, what is meant by frequency response function? It is the ratio of the output phasor to the input phasor. So I did not talk much about output phasor, because that you will be studying in some other course like networks and systems. So just try to understand. Okay, so it is a ratio of the output phasor to the input phasor under steady state sinusoidal excitations. What we mean by sinusoidal excitations? The input is purely a sinusoidal function. Okay, but however in practice in real systems we may not always have an excitation function which are sinusoidal beam. See, this h of j omega is very convenient and very useful. All are good, okay, good property, no problem. But this goodness comes only under sinusoidal excitations. The moment you have non-sinusoidal excitations, then you cannot do this h of j omega. Suppose you have a signal like this, like a periodic signal like this, then you cannot use h of j omega. Okay, so in practice, sometimes we may have non-sinusoidal signal also. See, this is a non-sinusoidal signal. Non-sinusoidal signal. So if you apply non-sinusoidal signal, then we cannot have h of j omega. So we cannot use it h of j omega. Okay, so because h of j omega is obtained on the basis of sinusoidal inputs. Sometimes you may have periodic signal like this. Sometimes you may have some non-periodic signal also like this. Then we will be in trouble. So then what shall we do? Okay, so they may not be periodic as well. They may be aperiodic as well. However, we would like to make use of this simplicity. Somehow, you relate this guy to h of j omega. We don't want to leave it as it is. Life is not very simple. Okay, sometimes the life may not be the way you want. So in such a case, you have to do something and do it much better. Okay, so as I said, I cannot have h of j omega. Then it doesn't mean that I will simply leave it and I will go or I will run away. We have to do something else. Okay, so in that case, we would like to make use of this h of j omega, like sinusoidal circuit analysis, because as long as the input is a sinusoidal function, then your analysis is very, very simple. So in this task, there is a boon for us. That boon is given by the mathematician, famous eminent mathematician called Fourier. So he developed a series. That series is called Fourier series. It is a blessing for us. This Fourier series. And this Fourier series is a very convenient tool for analyzing systems with this type of excitations 1 and 2. See, as long as sinusoidal, no problem, you easily can go and analyze it. But the moment you have some square signals like this, then you cannot. Or you have a signal like this, or you can have a signal like this, or like this. This all signals are expressed in terms of sinusoidal functions, and the whole process is done with the help of called Fourier series, FS, Fourier series. So the particular concept that we will take up in the next lecture is the Fourier series. Okay, so what is the use of Fourier series? Whenever you have non-sinusoidal functions, and that non-sinusoidal functions can be expressed in terms of sinusoidal functions. So once you have the sinusoidal functions, then I can enjoy the benefit of h of j omega. I can easily find out the response of the LTI system. So the whole purpose of this Fourier series is somehow I need to represent the non-sinusoidal functions in terms of sinusoidal functions. Why? Till now, because till now I have developed the tool and methods and everything for sinusoidal functions, for complex exponential functions. Okay, so somehow I need to write in terms of sinusoidal function, or you can write in terms of exponential function also. So later on we will see in Fourier series we have a trigonometric Fourier series, and then you have a exponential Fourier series. See, the beauty is you have some non-sinusoidal, some stupid kind of waveforms. All these waveforms are written in terms of a very smooth and nice trigonometric functions like cos omega t, cos n omega t. I will tell you what is the meaning of n omega t, because I am introducing a variable n here and t. Don't get confused. Okay, sin n omega t, n omega naught t, or in terms of e to the j n omega naught t. So this is discontinuous function. This all are because it has a discontinuity. This discontinuous function can be expressed in terms of smooth functions. So that is the beauty of your Fourier series. Basically, the Fourier series is a tool which is used to represent a periodic signal in terms of sinusoidal signals, number of sinusoidal signals. So where we use a infinite number of sinusoidal signals. Okay, so let me stop at this point. In the next lecture we will move on to Fourier series. Okay, Fourier series in terms of trigonometric function. We will start with trigonometric functions and then we will move on to complex exponential Fourier series. So this is the introduction and motivation behind the Fourier series. So we have gone through differential equation approach, then system function h of s, then h of j omega, then what is that, h of z for a discrete time system, like this. So 4 methods, and finally we have gone through h of t also. So let me stop at this point. Thank you very much.